29 minutes past 5 p.m. Central African time. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome back. This is the Iftar Drive on Salam Media. My name is Zahid Jadwat, and we are together for a few more moments as we be making our way towards Iftar. And in Durban, I believe that time is it should be anytime soon. It's in fact at 5:36 p.m. So it's going to be Iftar soon. And but before that, let's get to Adila Sirkoth, Salam Media's very own humanitarian journalist. She is going to be joining us now to speak about the fire that broke out at Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg. And of course, that's a big story. We spoke to the spokesperson for the Gauteng Department of Health earlier on as well on the show. So, Assalamu alaikum, Adila. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam and jazakallah for having me.
Right, so much has happened since in the last 24 hours. Unfortunate events also unfolded. Unfortunately, the fire broke out in Charlotte Maxeke Hospital, and you were on the scene earlier on today. Tell us about what the current situation is with regards to the fire. Has it been put out as yet?
The fire has been controlled and been put out, alhamdulillah. Unfortunately, when I was on scene this morning, they had just put the fire out. So, it was that sigh of relief from the firefighters. But at the same time, ICU patients were still on the scene. There were still ambulances coming in to pick up these ICU patients to then evacuate them to other hospitals. But at the same point in time, that was the last, because that was ongoing throughout the evening. They were evacuating patients. The whole hospital had to be evacuated. So that was going on throughout the night. And I was on the WhatsApp groups with all these volunteers and all these ambulances, and throughout the night, over 400 patients were being moved and out of the hospital voluntarily. These ambulances had to come together to move these patients.
And of course, we are in a pandemic, and hospitals, an important part in the fight of COVID-19. Of course, the hospitals are one of the most important parts if we are, to get through this pandemic easily. And of course, volunteers have come to the assistance, as you mentioned earlier on. So how have volunteers been assisting in this regard?
I think from last night, there were volunteers just dropping off refreshments for firefighters, ambulances and healthcare professionals. They had to step in and volunteer because obviously they needed to help move patients so that they could get evacuated. Ambulances played a tremendous role in taking these patients from place to place, but civilians themselves coming together, communities coming together to provide refreshments, to provide meals for the firefighters, for the sisters that were there for that evening. I think that's how volunteers came together. And I think that's what we should be grateful for, communities in South Africa that come together to provide aid when in need.
And of course, that's something we are proud of as South Africans, aren't we? When it comes to assistance, and volunteers always ready to help, no matter the situation. And that's at least what I'd like to think. And we've seen this being demonstrated over the course of the last few hours as volunteers rush to the assistance there at the scene. Of course, the hospital, Premier David Makura visited the hospital earlier today. And he shut down the hospital. So the hospital will be closed for the next 7 days at least. What are the volunteers now going to be doing in the days to come with regard?
I'm not 100% sure. Look, I think there's a lot of fluid to the situation. I think no one is clear of what is going to take place and what's going to happen, especially since the structure's collapsing. Everything's still unaware to everyone else. But I do think that it would be a cleanup process from volunteers to make it ready and comfortable for patients to come.
All right, it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. Of course, the hospital, I mean, it has been shut down for 7 days, but of course, after there's obviously going to be an assessment of the damage that has been done, and a lot of personal equipment has been damaged, protective equipment, medical supplies have been damaged by the fire. It is a serious issue, and it's going to be, we're going to have to see how this unfolds in time to come. Of course, the patients have been diverted to other hospitals. Residents have been discouraged from visiting the hospital because it is closed down after all. But one can only wonder at this stage, will there be the closure, will it last for 7 days or could it be longer? But I'm sure we'll find out in time to come as as time passes on. But thank you so much for your time this evening.
Jazakallah so much.
That was Adila Sirkoth, Salam Media's very own humanitarian journalist, speaking to us about the volunteer efforts that have been taking place in the aftermath of the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital fire. The hospital has been closed. We'll be joined in a few moments. We'll just take a quick ad break, and when we get back, it's time to wrap up and love and leave you. But we're going to get to dua from Maulana Muhammad Zubair Pula. He joins us to read a dua, and then it's obviously going to that will take us up to iftar time in Durban. In fact, Durban should observe iftar in about a minute or so. So we're going to be joined when we get back. We will be joined by Maulana Muhammad Zubair Pula for the dua, and after that, some nasiha, and that should take you up until the iftar time for Johannesburg, which is at 5:57 rather, and then Cape Town, of course, somewhere around 6 p.m. I think. Let me just double check here. The time for iftar in Cape Town is 23 minutes past 6 p.m. Please do stay tuned.